Hey everyone, Cory from aquariumcoop.com here with Jimmy Pop in the
Hello.
house. We're gangstered out today because we're wearing the Aquarium Co-Op hoodies.
I know, it's so black.
They're brand new for Christmas. You guys have been asking. I scrambled. I got them done. These ones, I'm going to talk about them for a second. Extra nice. They're fleece. They cost me a lot more. I don't really make money on them, so there's no like extra deal like buy a sweatshirt, Cory flies over your house and changes your water or anything like that. It's just a cool, good sweatshirt. As I was quoted saying yesterday, I actually love this thing. So I'm wearing it again today.
Yep.
It goes really nice with your collared dress shirt, as you can see here. You know, no worries. Do we got a picture of it?
Yeah. Let me
You
switch the
danced
screens
yesterday.
here, and,
There you go.
Boom.
So that's what the back of it looks like. It's got the Aquarium Co-op with Murphy and Edmonds, Washington on there. It's a zip up, super cool. They're $30. That's about it. I'll say this: custom printed hoodies, not cheap if you're buying any quality. So this was the recommendation. Came out well, I think. The other thing we've got going on this weekend is if you spend $50 before shipping, so you spend $50, then you got to pay your shipping, and you put in the comments free Aquarium Co-op ornament, you can get one like this. Look at that. Nice and cool. That could be hanging from your tree. Now, why would you want any of this Aquarium Co-op swag? Because we do like giveaways and stuff like that with it. One, you can represent, you can find other fish nerds, that's cool, but you can also win stuff. And so I'll say this: if you don't own something like a hat, this is the new navy blue hat, the sweatshirt, the ornament, maybe the ice scraper from back in the day. We've got the luggage tag. Like, you just have to have some swag. Yeah, the cup is super limited edition. I'll say this: pretty much later today or tomorrow, there's a giant prize giveaway coming out that's going to incorporate that. So the contest is going to run for about 2 weeks, basically till the beginning of the year. You should order stuff now if you don't own a piece yet, because one of these things that eventually you're just losing money. You'll win something super cool. So also, we're still doing, I get this question asked 10 times a day still, we are still doing buy a t-shirt, get a free bottle of Easy Green if you put that in the comments section. Still works. You can buy yourself a shirt, a hoodie, and that basically gets you to that $50, and then like a pipette, you'd be at $51. You get a free ornament. You can stack codes too. You can still use what is it, Aqua 10, save 10% off. But keep in mind, got to be 50 before discounts and shipping, so that way we're not just giving away the farm, so to speak. So
When's the last day where you can ship and get it before Christmas?
that's
So now I need that
hard
information.
because we ship everything priority. So we ship
Okay.
everything. Like if you're in Washington, it ships overnight. If you're in Florida, it takes 3 days. The problem is, like this week and next week, they guarantee nothing. So I could ship it out today, and it should arrive in 2 or 3 days if you're in Florida, right? But it might arrive 10 days from now, and they don't guarantee anything. So if you order plant, we guarantee it. We'll guarantee that everything makes it alive. But don't wait like 2 days before Christmas and be like, yeah, I'm going to order it now. Like, that's not a safe plan. I would encourage you, order a little bit before that. That's a smarter move. Or come in after Christmas, or order on Christmas. You can order on Christmas. We'll do a big sale then too. But I don't know that you'll get it before January 1st, which is when the deadline for all that crazy cool giveaways we're going to do is going to go on. So, you know, it's kind of one of those things. But today we're talking about bettas and what can you put with bettas. I know Jimmy in that bowl over there has a betta with a crazy goby.
Yeah, that goby's insane, but I think he's scared of the betta anyway.
Yeah. So I've found you can put quite a few things with bettas. And for me, I like to think of a betta like a dog. All right? So it's my pet, it's my puppy, whatever. I take care of it. That's my focus. But then it has to get along with my other pets. And so a lot of people have dogs and cats, and it works. But then some people have dogs that absolutely hate cats. Or you go, oh, my dog and my bird, no problem. You know, so you're going to find a combination that works, but it's all trial and error. If you own a dog and it loves to chase rats, you probably are going to second guess going, well, if I bring home a ferret, this thing might love to chase that ferret. That wouldn't be so good. So, but you also might find out like, oh, he loves to chase rats, doesn't care at all about ferrets. Who knew? So you got to have a backup plan. You know, is it returning it to the store? Is it, oh, well, I have another room that it can live in? In the case of a Betta, another fish tank. Am I going to give it away to a friend? That type of thing. So from the easiest to like hardest, I would say, start with like schooling fish that are very peaceful. That might be nano fish like Brigitae rasboras, might be ember tetras, might be Rasbora SBI, pygmy spotted rasbora, and get groups of like at least 6. Now, you could do something like a neon tetra. I'm going to use that as an example because that's the most basic thing that people have access to. You go and you grab yourself like 6 neon tetras, you quarantine them, make sure they're tip-top shape and they're looking good. Then you introduce them, and the Betta most likely is going to chase them. If you've ever introduced a dog and a cat to each other, or 2 dogs to each other, there's that like gotta get to know each other day or 2 that goes on. So you like take the day off of work and you sit there and you make sure that they're not fighting over treats and all that kind of stuff. That's what you do with your Betta and your 6 neon tetras. You introduce them, he's gonna chase them going, oh my god, they're in my space, what are you doing, I lived here first. And then eventually he'll realize he can't single any one of those tetras out, and he kind of learns to live with them. Like, well, they're actually not bothering me that much. So that's what mostly goes on. But you do have some, you know, dogs that will never live with another dog. You have some Bettas that will never live with another fish. That could be, you know, a problem. And typically, like if you ever introduce dogs to each other, if you make them sit right next to each other, they're probably going to fight. But if you have a giant house and you let them, you know, one's in one room, one's in the other, and there's like a little gate in between them, they can sniff each other, but they can't hurt each other, that type of thing. If we do that in an aquarium, it helps too. So instead of having like a 5-gallon tank and we're going to put 5 neons in there and the Betta already lives there, if we have 10 gallons or 20 gallons or a 55-gallon, the more space we have, the less territorial that Betta is. So if that Betta goes, I want my own square foot of aquarium, in a 4-foot aquarium, that means he wants 1/4. But in a 1-foot aquarium, that means he wants all of it. So that can be a problem. So more space, better. Also, the bigger your aquarium gets, typically the better it is for a Betta. More stable water parameters, including temperature, that type of thing. And at the store, you guys might see this in the unboxing videos or just store tours. There are tons of Bettas, and we put them in all kinds of setups. The only thing that I knowingly dodge are tetras that are a little bit nippy, so maybe like black phantom tetras and stuff like that. And it's because we have 20-gallon tanks at the store, and there might be 100 black phantom tetras in there. Probably if I put my dog in the same room as 100 cats, 2 of those cats are just going to beat on my dog. So it's one of those like odds issues. But in home aquariums, whenever I've done it, I've mixed them, you know, and this is one of those things like I've mixed them with goldfish. You're going, oh my god, that's horrible, but I run my goldfish tropical temperatures. It was in a larger aquarium. It tends to work out. Typically, I have lots of plants. I've done them with different types of danios, rasboras, tetras, lots of corridoras. Those work out really well. In my experience, I actually do well with shrimp as well. They'll eat some of the shrimp, but I add a Betta to the shrimp after they've colonized. So if they're making 50 shrimp a month and the Betta's eating 1 a day, they're still making 20 in excess every single month. So that's a working scenario. I've put them with platies. I've put them with swordtails, but a lot of times swordtails are a little bit aggressive for them. I'm trying to think of what else that dwarf frogs. I've done that quite a bit. You just got to kind of overfeed so that the worms will get down to the dwarf frogs. What else? Snails. Snails are real hit or miss because they don't move very fast. So the problem with that is if the Betta wants to harass it, it can like pull off their antennas, or at least it just picks at the antennas because it thinks it's worms. And then the snail pulls up into its shell, and then you've got a snail that doesn't want to come out. So that can be a problem. I would avoid really large fish. So tinfoil barbs, silver dollars, African cichlids, South American cichlids, a lot of that kind of stuff is very hard to pull off unless it's a very big aquarium. So if I had, let's say, some convicts in this 800-gallon, but then I had a Betta, that might actually work because it's 800 gallons as opposed to a 55-gallon. I can almost say for sure it wouldn't work because once those convicts breed, they'll probably take over the aquarium, and it's only a matter of time.
Someone's asking, can you put angelfish or discus with a betta?
We do it regularly at the store.
Yep.
That being said, like, one thing you have to take into consideration is at the store, if we have 100 aquariums and we put a betta in the discus tank, right, and it's not working out, we just scoop up the betta and we move it to another aquarium. So we have that advantage. If you don't have that much of an advantage, it can be, you want to be a lot more conservative of what you're trying. But in general at the store, we're putting a betta in with juvenile or even baby angelfish, and they grow up together, as opposed to you've got 6 angelfish this big already, and then you just go, yeah, Cory said I could put a betta in there. They might nip at it a little bit, that type of thing. And then you can skew your odds as well based on what type of betta. So if you have a veil tail betta, it's got longer fins, swims a little slower, it's less likely that it can chase down, let's say, tetras and that type of stuff. And you're going, hey, that's a good thing, right? But if you're going to put that betta with angelfish instead, swimming slower is a disadvantage, because those angels, if they chase it, it can't swim as fast. So you kind of want to pick a betta based on what you want to do. So with angels, I would put like a plakat betta. It's got nice short fins, pretty agile, can get around, can evade stuff. That's good. But I might not put that same betta in with Brigite rasboras, because then it's really nimble and it could chase them down if it wanted to. Same thing. If I had shrimp and that kind of stuff, put something with big flowy fins. Maybe it's a double tail half moon that, you know, it's just like waddles over, and the shrimp are like, oh, let me slowly walk away. And that's much better than a king betta that's already this big and nimble and just yomp.
Yeah.
But then there's also a lot of the wild caught bettas, like my brain doesn't work. Alba marginata, but I can't think of the first name. I think maybe it's just Betta alba marginata. My brain's not working at the moment. But there's simplex, there's alba marginata, there's macrostoma, there's chinoides. There's way more wild caught variants than what we consider to be the fancy variants. And a lot of those wild caught variants are more laid back. They'll tolerate even other bettas better, things like that. So the other one I can think of is Betta rubra. So there are a lot of those you could play with, but they don't have nearly as much color. But you know, it's kind of
They do
just,
look cool though.
they do, yeah. So if you've looked on our Instagram, you've seen some colored up alba marginata that I brought in. I really want to bring them into the fish room, but since we're redoing it, I'm not bringing any fish home. If anything, we're bringing more fish to the store currently so that we can keep moving stuff around. Now, I love those things a lot. I bred the crap out of them for a very long time and flooded me and a few other people in our local area flooded the area. So much so that I was retailing them in the store for $9.99 each. Well, I paid more for that when I bought these ones, and now we have to retail them because no one's breeding them anymore at $30 a piece. So a pair is $60, but they're super cool and worth it. You get one spawn, you should be able to sell them off and make your money back, that type of thing. So yeah, I guess it's mostly questions from the viewers.
You have pugnacks in the other room.
Yeah, I do. Oh, I did breed those for quite a while too. Betta pugnacks, very cool. So pugnacks, alba marginata, rubra,
Macrostoma.
I don't know I don't know off the top of my head. I don't think macrostoma is a mouth brooder. But for sure, pugnacks and alba marginata are. And so what that means is they're going to hold all the eggs in their mouth, and they'll let them hatch and spit them out. So when I bred alba marginata and pugnacks, they were both in community tanks. So like right now, the pugnacks live with platies and guppies. And that's kind of what I like to do, and that's how I need. That's how I've always kept my bettas, is in communities, because I don't like managing small systems. So I'd much rather build a 30-gallon aquarium knowing a betta's going to go in it and choose my stock than go, well, I'll just keep the betta in the 5-gallon. Because I'm a guy that doesn't need to collect a ton of bettas. I just have a few. And even right now, we probably have, I think we have a betta with some Corridoras. We've got a betta with...
they're pretty spread out in your
because for me, it just works out. And a lot of it, I guess, is because I've done it a bunch and I have that confidence, I'm not as scared. A lot of times we're held back from doing it just because we're afraid of the worst case scenario. And that is, if we're mortified that 2 dogs are going to fight, our dog will never get a friend. But what's the other side is, after a week, they're best friends. They sleep together. They keep each other warm. They share food. They protect each other. And so there's all those benefits also. And I think that's the same way as like if you owned a 30-gallon aquarium and a 5-gallon aquarium, if you could, and the 5-gallon had the Betta, and then you had a community tank in the 30, I think the life of that Betta gets a lot better if he can get along in that 30-gallon than in the 5-gallon. But as humans, normally what we do is we go, I got this empty 5-gallon. Let me go get another Betta. So it's kind of one of those, well, maybe we're not actually changing anything there. But it could definitely slim down your workload. And a Betta is a lot easier to take care of in a community tank because they get a variety of food. That's nice. If they stop eating a particular food, someone else will eat it. Temperature is easier to maintain. Water changes, more plants. There's fry to eat. That's a good thing. Like with a Betta, they're such carnivores that if the guppies have babies, they go eat those babies, and that's the perfect food for the Bettas, especially if you're going to try and spawn them and that type of thing. But I can't stress enough, more space, always better when you're trying to mix them. And that's when you're like, well, this guy said he can keep male and female Bettas together, but it might be a 55-gallon, might be 1 male, 6 females, fully planted. It's got neon tetras, it's got Corridoras, it's got like a lot going on. That's way different than a 10-gallon with 1 male and 1 female. That dynamic is way, way, way different. So, yeah.
So Taylor from Simply Betta says macrostoma are mouth brooders.
They are, okay. I just didn't want to quote it and then be like, this guy doesn't know anything. Because I've actually personally never played with macrostoma. I think they look very cool, but I don't want to breed them because it's too much work. So, given the choice, I'll always take Alba marginata, the strawberry Betta, because it's super wicked easy and looks really cool. So.
I like expensive things, so the macrostoma.
What's that?
The macrostoma,
oh, you like expensive
are they like
things?
$200-something?
Yeah. Yeah, but to breed them, the pH has got to be down like low 6.
Low 6?
Yeah.
That's insane.
So it's and they want super tan and water, and they want a lot of things. So it's not the easiest thing to do.
I like the king bettas too that we saw in Sacramento. They were breeding inside that.
Yeah,
tank.
they're fun.
Yeah.
I still want to get Bettas from Jeanne, who is in Glorious
that
Bettas.
I want too.
What's that?
She has a rubra that I want.
Yeah. If you can get in contact with any breeders that show at the shows, those Bettas, they tend to be very robust, but then also super good looking. You can get color strains and patterns and things like that you've never seen before. And a lot of times you get to choose from quite a bit. So like, well, here's the ones that I'm going to use as breeders or show specimens, and then here's the 60 I'm not. And then you can go, like this one's just a perfect coolness, that type of thing. Shout out to Simply Bettas. Check out her channel. She's kind of focused on Bettas. And, so if you're into it, you can go there and hang out and get some questions answered and that type of thing. It's always cool to see when different YouTubers start specializing. You've got Jenny at Solid Gold with goldfish, Simply Bettas with, the name, Simply Bettas. Mm-hmm. Whereas we're more of a generalist channel, I would say, right now, where I've got lots of knowledge in a lot of different areas, but I specialize in very few. I would say the ones I specialize in is probably like live bearers, puffers, and business. If I had to say like the areas that I feel really comfortable talking in. And then there's a bunch of other areas like Bettas, like I've done a lot of it, but if someone was going to dedicate the next 10 years of their life, they'll definitely know way, 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 way more than I would. So, while I've got you guys here, I want everyone to know about the bat signal. So the bat signal, we've enabled push notifications on the website. What does that mean? Basically, when you go to the website now, you're going to be like, hey, this box popped up that sometimes pops up on annoying websites I don't like that says, would you like to get notifications? Now, I've enabled that so that we can send out notifications when we go live. So a lot of you, well, not a lot of you guys, but about 100 people got a notification 30 minutes before we went live that says, hey, don't forget, we're going live in 30 minutes. And that's what I'm going to use that for. I'm not going to abuse the privilege. I'm basically going to, there you go. Yeah, that when you'll get a little thing like that pops up on your computer or in Facebook Messenger for you. And it'll just say like, Cory's going live in 30 minutes. Or I'm going to use it for like, by the way, we're launching this contest where we're going to give away $1,000 or 1,000 in gift cards. So that's going to come up. We might release that tonight or tomorrow, and you'd get a little notification. But it's not going to be like, oh, there's a sale today. Like, the goal is to use it for its purpose, and that is big events and live streams. So that, and that's the goal. It also has a few extra features that I think are beneficial. So if you sign up for that bat signal thing, it's also, if you order something from us, it will send you either on your phone or on your computer there, it'll send you a little message, be like, by the way, it's out for delivery. Oh, it's been delivered. So it's got a few notifications that if you're ordering stuff from us, it'll help keep your stuff a little safer, so that if you're at work and it's freezing and you know that your plants are sitting in the mailbox, you can say, oh, my wife or my husband or whoever, can you go grab those out of the mailbox? I'm at work right now, but I just got the notification. So, you know, it's not going to spam you, though. That's the thing, is I'm very anti-spam unless you want to be spammed. If you want to be spammed, sign up for the newsletter. I send out like two a week, one with the deals and one with like, hey, we're going live. So that's that. How's the new Giraffe Cat? The big one I've barely seen, but the little one's out all the time now.
Yeah.
But we went like 3 weeks with barely seeing the small one. That log is big and cavernous.
Yeah.
I am thinking about getting in there, and by me I mean Jimmy. We kind of want to move that rock pile right there. So that whole rock pile, it's just collecting some debris, and it's not really serving a purpose. It looks cool. Okay, so it is serving a purpose because it looks cool. But
yeah, well, at home's the big clown loaches. They're all back there.
They all go back there and they feel safe and all that, but I mean, it's just going to change. We take those rocks out, they might hide somewhere else, or they might be outgoing. I don't know. But I've got the pump set up right now, so like there's a bunch of debris in there because I've got the gyro pump basically turned off during the night so they can kind of rest and sleep up, and then feeding happens, and then they poop a bunch, and then the pump kicks on, kicks it all up, and gets it to the filtration. Well, that pump turned on 5 minutes before we went live, and I go, maybe I should change when that pump turns on, because it was like, oh, it looked clear. Oh, not clear, because we just whipped up all the poop, and now it's going to get filtered. And then 30 minutes after the live stream, it'll look great, you know? So, gotta do a little bit. Yeah.
I'm going diving again.
What's up?
I'm going diving again.
Diving?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah. So we're not hitting our 1,000 people. I was hoping last week we had 950. Only like 700. It
was also a really cool thumbnail of you crying.
That's what it probably was. People are like, "Oh, you finally lost it. Finally lost it."
Guppies, so.
Yeah. So, what else we got? Oh, if you hadn't watched the other video, we've got a new section on the website that's local aquarium clubs. I've put a lot of them on there now. Like, we got a lot of people that helped us out. And so not every state or every country or anything like that has one, but I think over time it will build to be a bigger list. So it's a work in progress.
So Daniel Coleman says, my 7-year-old son wants to ask you, how does a fish breathe underwater? Can you answer, please?
Oof. All right. Well,
I'm putting on the spot and everything, but
I'm gonna explain it to a 7-year-old then.
Yeah.
Because I was like, well, I don't want to get too nerdy here. Let me try and think of. Basically, fish are designed to breathe underwater. So think of them like they have a built-in like snorkel or a mask, that type of thing that we don't have. Like, we can't breathe underwater. But a fish is designed so it can, and really where it's happening is their gills. So you'll watch them flap on a fish, and what they're doing is they're moving water kind of over their it's really like their nose, I guess. It's not their nose, but think if you were to move water and they're like smelling it, that's the same thing. And when you're smelling it, you smell particles. Well, the fish, they're moving water over those gills, and they're kind of taking the oxygen particles in through those gills. And so if they don't keep moving water over them, they would stop breathing. And so they're more like lungs, but not every 7-year-old knows what lungs are. So think of it, if you're 7 and you smell cookies, the smell of the cookies is like the oxygen for the fish. So when they're doing that, they're trying to smell cookies, and the more cookies they can smell, the better that they can breathe. And we don't have that ability. Unfortunately, we have to breathe oxygen out of air, and so we get to smell cookies, but that doesn't help us live, where that same thing going on underwater would. So they're basically, think of them as like they're built, they've got that mask, like if you've ever worn a snorkel before, and you were able to breathe while looking down in the water, they kind of have that already built in, and they're made to do that. Now, when you're 13, look up how fish breathe, and then you can kind of look into the science of it and learn more about that, I would say. But for now, think of it like that.
You know what I also learned while we were at the Shed Aquarium about archerfish's eyes and how they don't refract? Like, let's say you go underwater and you can't see a darn thing unless you had goggles
Yep.
on. And they can spit out of water so accurately because their eyes don't refract out
Yeah.
of water. So,
Evolution. Crazy.
So, you want to read that super chat and I will
Sure.
do what she requested?
All right. From Caroline Epler with $22. Caroline has been a strong supporter both of this show and the Real Fish Talk show. Says, hi, Cory and Jimmy. Thank you for all the great information. I got half my order today. Please pass on my warm regards to your awesome shipping team. Can you please do magic fingers across the tank? Sure.
I can model the...
Yes, the Aquarium Co-op shirt. Get them all whipped up. Let me get out of the way here.
Come on, brood.
They're
all scared right now.
Yeah, they act. There you go. They act different when they get fed. But yes, it's fun tank to play with. We do it quite often, and so Caroline, if you got half your order today, you'll probably get the rest of your order tomorrow. A lot of times we have to ship in multiple boxes depending on what you buy. Like we don't want to ship a ton of rocks and then a plant and have it get destroyed in shipping. And right now there's so many packages going through the mail that they can be one day off, that type of thing. So, but thank you for ordering. Yeah, hopefully you're going to get yourself a hoodie and an ornament and all those things. Someone asked, and I saw it, but I don't remember who said it, so I apologize. Someone said if I could make the review process easier. What is it about the review process that is difficult? Because as far as I have it set up is like 2 weeks after you get an item, you get an email sent to you. You click on the link, and you have to put in your name, a title, and what you think about the product, and then you hit like the done button. So maybe like, for all I know, maybe it's like super hard on an iPad or a phone or something like that. But from my testing on a phone and a computer, it works great. And we have over 3,000 reviews. So like if you go to the website, we have over 3,000 product reviews. And that's the first I've heard of, can I make it easier? So there might be just a random device thing that's acting all weird or something like that. And so yeah.
So, have you decided what you want to do for the tanks yet?
What do you mean? Like the
what you asked everybody on the last video?
Oh, yeah. So I think what we're gonna do is we've started building. We're not 100% committed to it yet, but I think it's the left-hand side, if you will be all 29-gallon tanks. So 2 on top, 2 on bottom, and then on the right-hand side will be 75, and that leaves us with about. I believe when we measured it last night when we were working on it, 16 inches off to the side there that we can put cabinets in to hold fish foods and that kind of stuff because it's right next to the sink. So brine shrimp eggs, all that kind of stuff that we want to play with. Ooh, maybe I make it a brine shrimp cabinet. That'd be kind of cool. Like, oh,
Yeah.
look at this. And then there's like the light and the brine shrimp doing the thing. That'd be kind of fun. So yeah. Sean Nebula asks, can I get a hoodie with a logo on the front? Maybe on the next run. At this point, I'm $2,000 deep on hoodies. So we got to sell some before I'm going to buy $2,000 more in hoodies.
Yeah. But for now, enjoy the wonderful winter collection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, loving it so far.
The Murphy cam isn't working. I checked. Everything is off.
You're saying you checked or someone else checked?
Someone else checked.
Let me click the button. I see. Here's the problem: 70 times a day, people say, "Oh, there's something wrong with something you're doing," and then I go there. I'm like, "No," like everyone just assumes. Now it might be. I'm going to click on this button. It could totally be broken.
Tom Gregory says, "Hey, Cory and
No,
Jimmy."
it's 100% working.
Okay.
I literally clicked on it right now. I can watch it. So we get these kind of emails stuff all day long. Like, do you know your thing's broken? Your website doesn't work. That doesn't work. But the reality is, usually because we have over 100,000 people interacting with our stuff every day, it's usually like, oh no, actually it's just spyware on your computer, or your random phone has a problem with it, or random Android tablet hates Nest cams. It's usually some weirdo thing. But I can tell you right now, I'm watching it, and then something like with the Murphy cam, I get alerted the instant it goes down, because it's also part of, there's lots of cameras at the store and the warehouse, that kind of stuff. So I get alerted the minute internet gets knocked out or power gets knocked out or anything like that. So usually I'm on top of it. The only time it has ever gone down where I didn't fix it like really quickly, I was on vacation in Maui, and I just no one else knew how to fix it, because the Murphy cam is our oldest camera, and they didn't know how to set it up. So all the newer cameras went right back online when they switched the router, but not that one. So
are the hoodies true to size? Can't decide whether I want an extra large or 2X, and do they zip up? So yeah, they're YKK zippers, the best zippers on the planet.
What size did you get?
Medium. So medium is a medium.
Yeah, and Joel, my
He's got a
co-host on
medium.
Real Fish Talk, got a medium.
Yeah.
I'm wearing a 3XL.
I'm
and
5'7", 150 pounds.
I feel like the 3XL is a little big, but I haven't tried a 2XL on.
Okay.
So I just normally wear the 3XL shirt. So I can say this: if you wear a 2XL with the Aquarium Co-Op shirt, which I don't know if you've bought one or not, I would buy the 2XL sweatshirt. That being said, I haven't washed one of these yet, so maybe it shrinks a little bit more. But this is supposedly the best.
It's my favorite hoodie right now.
Hoodie that my money can buy.
Yeah.
I asked what was the best, not the cheapest or anything like that. I asked a person that, she makes all of our shirts and that kind of stuff. I go, if I'm after quality, what do I buy? And she's like, this is the one you want to buy. And so far, I don't even see any pilling or anything like that.
Yeah,
because
usually when you buy a new hoodie, all this inside fluff gets stuck to your shirt, and once you take off your shirt,
none
you
of
see
that's
a
been
bunch
going
of it,
on so
nothing
far.
like that. So pretty cool so far.
Let's see. Can I share which store you found those rocks in the 800-gallon from? The Rock Yard. What is it? Pacific Landscape?
Yeah, something like that.
They're pretty much at
Mexican
every
River
it's
Stone.
Mexican River round stone or whatever. They're pretty much at every landscaping place ever, because people like to use them in their rock gardens and stuff. And they've had them there for years. I've seen them at every landscaping place I've ever been to. So yeah.
729 watching, 265 likes.
Not bad. Yeah, they're watching, but they still haven't decided whether they actually like the content yet or not, which I get it,
Tom Gregory's keep on asking this question. He goes,
Okay.
Hey, Jimmy and Cory, am I an idiot by doing a fish cycle with a green spotted puffer?
No. I mean, truth be told, I pretty much only cycle aquariums with fish in them.
Me
I
too.
mean, I do with plants as well, but, it's kind of like trying to think of a different thing in the world where the fish police aren't there to harass you. Okay, it's kind of like saying, am I an idiot for getting a puppy when I don't have my fence built yet? Well, no, just walk your dog every day on a leash, let it go potty, be a really good owner, pay a lot of attention to it, and then in 3 weeks when the fence is done being built, you're ready to go. That's the same thing for your dog or for your fish here is well, if you're monitoring water parameters, you're changing water, you're feeding correctly, you're doing all the correct things, and it's doing absolutely fine, that's not a problem. But it is a problem when you're well, I don't have the fence built, I just open up the door and the puppy goes out, and he comes back most days, that is, being an idiot. But if if you realize the risk you have going on, that's the definition of not being an idiot. The fact that you're probably asking the question probably is oh yeah, you're aware that you're in a potential dangerous situation, so you're going to avoid it. Yeah. So.
Candyforian, not a beta question, but I bought some aquarium lily bulbs, and I put them in a tank and they're floating. Is this bad? It's been a few days. I'm not sure it's still viable.
I'd give them a few more days. They have to like get the air out of them. But what I like to do is grab yourself like a weight for plants and just pinch around it lightly so it'll flop down. And then let it sit like that for a few days. If it doesn't start to sprout, flip it over and then see if it'll sprout. And then if it hasn't sprouted after like, let's say 10 days of you owning it, then I would contact who you bought it from and be like, hey man, or girl or business or whoever, like these are kind of duds. They're not doing what they need to do. And yeah, that's why I usually like to sell everything with some leaves on it. So that way it's like, no, this thing's good to go. It left my care growing. So, yeah. What can you keep with a banded leprinus? It's 24 centimeters, so a foot long. Depends on the size of the aquarium, but probably things like bala sharks, Congo tetras, other fast swimming fish, like other river fish, I guess, would be the best. I wouldn't put them with like an Oscar where it might ram it, that type of thing. So 3 bristlenose and a 20 high. Can you have it? Sure. Can you keep up with the maintenance? That's your own thing, right? Like
that's a lot of maintenance.
Like I might have 15 bristlenose and a 20 high at the store, but we auto water change 4 times a day. We might perform additional water changes in addition to that. They might only live there for a month. Like, so there's a lot of things going in there. And this comes back to what we were talking about with like real fish talk is, could you or should you? Like, you can do almost anything, but should I keep 3 bristlenose and a 20 high? You're probably just good with 1. Like, your life's probably easier. Like, oh, let me rehome these other 2. Now it's a much better environment I got going on. That type of thing. Let's see here. Mad Tank says, would you mind if I put Aquarium Co-Op on my company shirts? I don't know what that means. Like,
I think he wants to put your logo on his shirts.
But I don't know what that means. Like, your company shirts, like you walk into the office and you go to work tomorrow, or
no,
like
I think that's the guy that's building his own fish store, maybe, that we met in Chicago.
So if that's the case, then yes, I would mind. And here's the reason. It's not that I don't want people promoting me, and I really, as a, like, let's say I didn't know Jimmy and Jimmy was walking down the street and he has Aquarium Co-Op on his shirt, that's fine. But as a store, like, for instance, would I mind if, I'm trying to think of, like, some horrible business. Like, would I mind if Monsanto branded themselves as Aquarium Co-Op? Probably, because now my business is aligning with them, and maybe I don't want that. So I'm not saying I don't want to align with, let's say it's Mad Tank's Aquarium Store, or whatever the scenario is, but I don't want to put my seal of approval on something I have no idea of, if that makes sense. Because, like,
makes sense.
Aquarium Co-Op, in my opinion, this is probably one of those things like his head is this huge, but I only want to associate with things that I think are quality, worth an investment. So like, that's the same reason I didn't buy a hoodie that I could have sold you guys for $30 that only cost me $7, because it's the quality. If you wash the hoodie once and it explodes and breaks your dryer, you think, oh man, Aquarium Co-Op just sells bad products. So yeah, I would say that would definitely be something like an email. We'd have to talk about it. I'd have to know you pretty well before I'm just like, yeah, go ahead, have 1,000 shirts printed with my logo on it and your logo, because that's kind of that's a different thing. That's like me, giving the tip of the hat, like, go buy from Flip Aquatics. I can say that because I know them. I've been to the facility. I talk with them weekly, that type of thing. And this is like, I have no idea what you're talking about. So that's the opposite of what I was just explaining there. So
Sandra says, I've been watching your videos for about a year. I just don't remember you really ever mentioning about bettas. What made you decide to start keeping them or selling them?
Well, they've always been sold at the store.
Yeah.
They're something that every fish store pretty much has to carry. The reality is, I've kept a lot of fish and I enjoy a lot of fish, but I don't always talk about a lot of fish. So, there's phases in your fish keeping career depending on how long you've been there. Usually you're going to be like, oh, look at that. I bred and touched every type of betta for like 3 years. I went down that rabbit hole. And then you come out the other side going, yeah, kind of burned out on eating ice cream because I ate it for 4 weeks straight. I don't want any more Rocky Road. And then you kind of circle back a couple years later going, yeah, Rocky Road sounds all right. And that's kind of where we're at right now is like, oh, yeah. I mean, I still love bettas, and I still have some. I've got some. But I don't, like, spend all day talking about them because, like, that, oh, my God, I just tasted ice cream for the first time ever. That's kind of moved on, I guess. So, and the same thing with African cichlids and clown loaches. And the reality is there's not too much I haven't kept. The places left for me to explore in the hobby would be, I feel, reptiles, so like turtles. I feel like I could explore some more there. Central and South American cichlids. I could explore more there if I was interested, which I just, no matter what, I feel like I'm not that interested. I've tried a few times. And then there are some saltwater facets. I've done the reef, that kind of thing, but I haven't really done any of the predators. I might really love some of the puffers, but those are areas I could explore into. And brackish water a little bit more, but at the same time, I haven't been drawn to them. So, you know, I pretty much do whatever I want to do every day. So if I wanted to be like, yeah, it's mud skipper day today, I would do mud skippers, but nothing's drawn my attention to do that. And I've just done so many things. You could be like, well, you said you want to do mangroves. Like, well, yeah, I've done that before, though. I've done saltwater mangroves. I've done all that kind of stuff. So I just take it one day at a time and like, what's interesting today? What did I read? What stemmed this talk? So,
what are your thoughts on betta sororities in general?
I think they're a disaster. I'm like I don't know if I'm the only guy against it, but whatever the current wisdom is with information on the internet, it doesn't work. Like, we watch people set up betta sororities all day long, every day, and then we watch them be a train wreck 11 times out of 10. That's the reality. Is like, I don't get it. The internet says 6 female bettas and a 20 long with plants works, and yet it's not working. And that scenario plays out every single day at the store. We don't even sell female bettas. We have a couple in right now, and you're going to see it come out on unboxing. It was accidentally ordered. Robert thought he was ordering males. So we got like 2 female crown-tail bettas, and then someone's going to be like, you said you don't sell them. And then be like, well, it was a misorder, so obviously we're going to sell them because I'm not going to kill them. You know, so we're going to sell them. But in general, and I'm not saying no one can pull this off, I just have a feeling there's a disconnect between the information available currently on the internet and what's realistic. So you kind of read and you're like, oh yeah, it seems like this is going to be awesome and fun, and I'm going to do that. And then it ends up being not awesome and not fun for most people. And myself included, I've tried probably 3 or 4 times. I've watched I've watched very advanced fish keepers just go, yeah, it's a beating. They're still aggressive fish. They run into getting egg bound. There's that issue. They're gluttonous, so they really want to eat a lot of food. So they're easy to give dropsy, and there's extra stress in there.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying that betta sorority stress the females and shorten their lifespan, and
right,
it works until it doesn't.
Here's how you know something is right in the world or not right in the world. If female betta sororities worked well, every single fish store would have a 55-gallon that was planted with a rainbow of color, and I would sell thousands of female bettas all day long. So remember that. If the money's not there, it doesn't actually work. Because I guarantee you, if it worked well, I would have the largest female betta assortment that was ever available on the planet, right? And that would just be like, instead of guppies, we would all just have, because what's the biggest downfall of guppies? Like, they have too many babies. Yeah, if you had a female betta sorority, you have infinite color. You essentially have an African cichlid colored tank with, you know, in theory, no aggression. And, oh, the fish are cheap, and they come in every color, and all these great, great, great benefits to it. The reality is, somehow it just doesn't play out that way. So that's where I say the current information that's online doesn't work, and I don't know the best way to do it. Otherwise, I'd be putting that information online. So I'm not saying it can never be done, but we might know in 6 years, oh, turns out you got to do at least 13 of these things in a 75-gallon tank, and it works out awesome every time. But right now, I feel like the current wisdom that we get hit up on all the time is 6 female bettas and a 20 long is like, you know, peanut butter and jelly to people. And I'm like, well, it's not that tried and true. So,
can you explain what being egg bound means?
So what can happen with fish is okay, I got to back up a couple of steps if I'm going to explain this correct. we've gotten to a point where fish foods are so good now. Like, think of it like humans. It might have been like a bunch of years ago, it was hard to stay well fed in a day, right? Now, it's so easy to get calories and fats and all that kind of stuff that it's easy to get as fat as I am, right? Super easy. Same thing's going on with fish. Fish foods have gotten so good that we're providing, amino acids and lipids and HUFAs and raw protein and all these really great sources of food, and that puts a fish's reproductive cycle into overdrive. They're like, hey, we need to breed, because in the wild, when food is good, that's the time to replicate. Well, if you're an aquarium, if food is always good, we got to replicate all the time. And so let's say your body, as a female betta, you're producing 162 eggs, and you do that week after week after week, and so you make 162 eggs, then it reabsorbs it, and then it makes 162 eggs again and reabsorbs it. Eventually, one of those times, you're like, it's going to have problems reabsorbing. And if they can't pass those eggs out like they would lay them, and they had a male to help express those, they can become egg bound. Same thing with goldfish and that type of thing. And when they get egg bound, it's essentially like stuff stops moving, then it starts rotting, and then they start dying from it. And so a lot of times it'll just look like dropsy, like an organ failure or a constipation issue, and it can be egg bound. And in my experience watching lots of people, and myself included, one of two things are going on. Either A, they're getting egg bound, or B, we are just feeding such rich foods that they are getting constipated and things like that. But the result is the same, of like, oh man, swelled up a bunch and died. Water parameters look great. We're literally talking about 6 fish and a 20 long here, so it's one of those things like should be autopilot easy mode, and it's not. So then you go, well, what if we put a male in there, and then you can express, we can lay eggs all the time, and that'll help. It might help a bit, but that also adds another layer of stress. And so, like, what's the biggest problem with pregnancy? It's like crazy amounts of stress causes miscarriage, and it's hard on the body and all those things. So I'm not sure that there's really a good answer besides the fact of like, well, what if we do like an 800-gallon aquarium and we put like a male and 3 females in there? Like, yeah, that might be really low key and not stressful, but most people aren't doing ridiculously big tanks just to watch nature happen with 4 bettas. So that's the, it's like where the rubber meets the road type of deal.
So Taylor from Simply Betta says, I can keep female bettas together if they're young and all grown up in the same spawn, but that is all that has worked for me. So.
Yeah, exactly. And even like Jeanne and Glorious Bettas has spoken to where she can do that. Mm-hmm. But if you split off some of them, like let's say you go, okay, they're this big now, I'm going to put the spawn into 2 20 longs. She says it's really hard to mix them back in. So like let's say you had them in 2 20 longs and you're like, okay, I'm going to move all of them to a 55. It can be very aggressive in there. So
yeah. Let me take this super chat real quick. It's Daniel Coleman. Thanks for answering the question for my son. Can you do a shout out to Kyle Campbell, which is the 7-year-old? And my question is, how do bettas breed if you can keep them together?
All right. Well, good afternoon, Kyle Campbell.
Hi, Kyle.
Yes. How do they breed? So a couple of things here. One, boy and a girl, they're going to get in what's called the embrace. So they're going to kind of wrap around each other, that type of thing. There we go. Wrap around each other. And they have to fertilize eggs, and they're going to lay them in a nest that the male has built. So they build a bubble nest, then they attach those eggs up there, and then after they've laid, the male is going to attend to them. Now that's the very simple version. The longer version is the male and the female have to like each other. If they don't, they're trying to kill each other. Usually the nest has already got to be built. Otherwise, he's not going to build one because he's too worried about fighting off that female. A lot of times you got to put the male, like let's say in a 10-gallon or something like that with half the water. Then you put the female in like a mason jar also in that tank so they can see each other, and she can watch him build the nest and all that kind of stuff, but they can't hurt each other. And then eventually he'll build that nest, it'll be ready, you release. If they like each other, they'll go do that, and then you're going to have to remove that female again. Otherwise, his goal is he's afraid she's going to come over and eat those babies or those eggs, and so it can be a little bit intensive of a process. You can do things like floating a leaf on top, or a lot of people use like those styrofoam coffee cups. You cut one in half, and that creates like that leaf structure. They build the bubble nest underneath that. So there's a lot of little spawning tips and tricks that you can kind of research and look into if you want to breed those bettas. But in my opinion, the hardest part of breeding the bettas is actually raising the newborn fry, where they need like infusoria-sized food, which that's fancy words for like microscopic food that you can't really buy off the shelf. So,
here's a guppy question for you from Caroline Epler. My most favorite guppy died of prolapse. Was there anything that I could have done for her?
probably not. If you were gonna, throw a Hail Mary, you would have like let's say a 5 or 10 gallon quarantine tank. You would have loaded it up with salt and then put her in there. And what that does, so it usually causes it to swell, or causes the swelling to go down. It fights off the bacterial infection, stuff like that. That's the only way I've ever been able to save like flower horns and those types of things for customers that have had prolapses go on. And a lot of it is with a guppy, they only live 2 to 3 years depending on temperature. They live a pretty hard life. They breed a lot, and so usually they're just weak enough of like, oh yeah, it's probably just nothing we're going to be able to do about this, even though it's the best guppy you own, that type of thing. You hope that some of the babies raise up and look as good as dad or mom did. So,
what are your top 3 favorite wild bettas, and where can you buy them?
Aquabid seems to be like the place for bettas, especially wild caught bettas, and a lot of them are supplied by the Wet Spot Tropical Fish. There are other importers. My top 3 favorite are probably Pugnecks is like the easiest, I think. Super duper easy. Not super duper colorful, but they get kind of big too, which is nice.
Yeah, they're really big.
And then I like the Strawberry Betta or Alba Marginata. And then after that, Rubras look really cool, and they're not that hard to breed either. So probably those 3. I'm trying to think. For wild caughts, yeah, those are probably my 3 that I enjoyed. I played with other ones too. So, have I ever bred bettas? I've never bred Betta Splendens. I have very little desire to breed the fancy ones, but I have done some of the wilds, yeah.
Tail biting in bettas. Any ideas on how to stop it?
Keep them entertained. It's a boredom thing. It's kind of like, how do I stop my dog from chewing on the couch? Usually
Tire them out.
Yeah, you got to tire him out. So use a laser pointer, put fish in there for him to chase, feed him different types of food, give him some live black worms, do things that stimulate the environment. I will say this, on average, I see tail biting way more in smaller aquariums than I do larger aquariums. And that's one of those like macro level things of like, well, in a larger aquarium, usually there's other fish, there's other things going on. And in a smaller aquarium, they're not. And so I think I'm much more likely to go stir crazy if I have to live in my car versus living in my house. Like, there's different rooms, different areas, different things going on. And in my car, it's like, oh, geez, like, it's just the same seat. There's really nothing to do. I'm getting bored. I'm starting to think of stuff to do. Oh, I can start chasing my own tail. That'd be fun. But I think that's what's going on for most of those issues.
So what are like the number 1 sicknesses of bettas?
The number 1 sickness of bettas is collectoritis. People buy way too many bettas. That's really the number 1 plaguing issue.
What about medical sicknesses?
The number 1 issue they have that other fish don't have is velvet.
Velvet, yeah.
Because velvet thrives in lower pHs, and that's typically what they're kept in overseas before they're shipped here. So it's very common for them to get velvet as opposed to other things. And then usually it's just bacterial infections are very common. And the disease that sets in, most common from a store owner's perspective, is conditions that aren't optimal. And so it usually is in tanks that are 5 gallons or less. And then they either A, fall behind and nutrients build up, B, pH goes too far down, or C, water temperature isn't stable. And so there, for every 100 bettas that are sold, I want to say 80 of them go into an environment where the owner means well, but it's not that optimal. Every 3 months, they're going to have to figure out, like, why is my betta sick? Then there's like 10 more where it's like, oh man, my betta gets sick once every 2 years, and it's because, oh well, I got a little lax, everything was going great, wasn't having any problems. And then there's 10 out of those 100 that, they fall right into their 20 long. They live with a few corridoras and some tetras, and they're fed live baby brine shrimp every third day, and then it's worms the second day, and then it's a quality pellet or flake food the other day, and life is great, and they're the best bettas ever. That's probably the reality of it, is just that, just because we can do something, like I can keep a lot of fish in a 5-gallon, but there's a lot of them I don't, because I'm like, that's just too much work. The same reason I don't keep, I personally never kept dogs in an apartment. Like if you're on a 4th-story floor and you got a dog, it's just way more work than when you own a house.
Yeah. I was on a 13th floor with my dog and had to go through down an elevator.
Yeah.
And through 3 security doors just to let him out.
Right, and that's clearly a lot more work than our little chihuahuas we got going on here at the house, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's one of those, can you do it, should you do it things, and it all depends. Like, for all I know, Jimmy and his dog, best friends, would have done anything in the world for it, and I know Jimmy's quite like the hiker and that kind of stuff, so even though, you got to take the dog down to go potty, but if every weekend you're out in the mountains exploring the world, that's probably an awesome, experience for that dog and for Jimmy. But like me, I don't like to go mountain climbing on the weekend, and so that dog would just be like, oh man, I gotta go down 13 flights of stairs or the elevator or whatever, and this is your life. You got to go to the bathroom on concrete and then back up to the house we go. That, or the apartment we go. That's not an optimal scenario. Can it be done? Sure. Do a lot of people do it? Sure. But it's all one of those things like, I chose to wait. So we didn't keep dogs for like me and my wife. What is it now? It's probably like 7 or 8 years. We didn't have any dogs or cats because we were renters. Even though we were renting duplex in a house, we only did fish because of that. Because they didn't have fences, and we didn't want to make property improvements and all those types of things. So, yeah.
I'll go off topic here, but this gentleman's got a question. It's an emergency, and it's my favorite pleco. So Frederick Bennerfeld got 3 L397s home today, and the transport water have an NO3 level at 200. My tanks hold NO3 at 25. Is it a high risk to let the fish in my tanks tonight? Sorry for the off topic. Thank you for sharing.
So it was L397.
Yeah.
This is one of those hard things. I can't tell you what to do. I can only tell you what I would do. So know this, that if those plecos explode 3 minutes from now, they would have exploded for me as well. All I can do is give you my experience of 1, owning 397s, B, touching insane amounts of fish over many years. I literally would just net them straight out of that bag and put them into my water.
Yeah. I would do the same thing.
I would just do that, and you might go, well, they all died, and that might happen, but in my experience, touching insane amounts of fish, that essentially, like, never happens. So that's what I would do myself, knowing that, 1, my water is better than that water, being out of a bag is better than being in a bag, and no matter what you do, you could spend the next 7 years acclimating those things, and they could still die. So there's always going to be unknown variables, but I just go with the information and my previous experience of like, getting them out and getting them into my water where the temperature's right. They're getting flow. Plecos like flow. We're going to process some of that waste out of there. We're going to do all these things. I would much rather have that scenario going on personally, and I find that less stressful for me and less likely I'm going to make a mistake. I'm really good at keeping fish in an aquarium. I'm not nearly as good as keeping fish in a bag. Like, that's a harder scenario than it is keeping in an aquarium for me. So the faster I can get them in an aquarium where I'm comfortable and I'm in my zone, the better I am. So
sounds good.
Daryl Dimer with the $20 super chat. You were my superhero, buddy.
Be a stream without Daryl.
I'm gonna find something cool one day to do
for Daryl.
Yeah, like I'm gonna do a big donation or something someday, and I'm gonna put it like in Daryl Dimer. In his name. Yeah. I'll be like, because of this guy being so generous to us, we're now being generous to this organization.
That sounds good.
Yeah. One day I'll do that. Like, I know Daryl's not a guy that's going to be like, oh man, it's been 7 minutes. You haven't done that yet. And I know he's not doing it for that reason, but someday I do hope to give back and be like, this guy, like I think we're just getting started, by the way. Like, as far as Aquarium Co-op and stuff like that goes, I think we're just getting started, so I hope to be able to look back one day and be like, yeah, people like Daryl that supported us right when we were, we're young in the YouTube career, we're young in the business and all that, and now we get to break ground on the new community center where there's lots of fish tanks and all this kind of stuff, and then we can put his name on the wall or something.
Sounds good. Let's see. Maybe take one more question before we get going here.
What if I discover a fish and I could name it after him? That'd be kind of cool.
That would be insane.
Because you can't name a fish after yourself. That's a faux pas. You can't do that. So you got to name it after someone.
Go ahead and pick another question.
Another question.
We'll round it up here.
How do I ethically purchase a Betta when my local stores don't sell or keep them like you do? I don't want to support keep them in cups. You go and you buy one at the store. Like there's really no way, like ethically and non-ethically is pretty much a sham. So let's run through the scenario. Like in the question you say, they don't sell them like I do. Right. But who do I buy them from? I buy them from a wholesaler that lets them live in cups. So whether it's one more stop or not, it doesn't really change. So like even me, it's not like I'm buying from a breeder who kept them in 1,000-gallon aquariums each. I would say, ethically purchase a Betta that you want to keep and then give it a good life and then let others around you observe that. So that's a distinction. So when someone comes over your house and they see your Betta and it lives in a 20-gallon aquarium and that seems cool to them, they're much more likely when they go get their son or daughter a Betta, they go, oh yeah, well, I saw that, Bethy, I saw that Beth kept it in she's keeping it in a tank that size, but you're recommending I get this bowl? I don't know, that one looked cooler. We're going to do that. And so through osmosis, you'll be ethically changing how Bettas are kept. Now, I want to be very clear on that. I don't recommend becoming a Betta white knighter where you're like, oh my God, I only keep my Betta in a 20 gallons, so I'm going to make sure that everyone who's not doing that feels worse and that they know my ethic views on Bettas, and it's real easy to get into that. So that's me throwing myself under the bus. Like just because I put them in 20-gallon tanks doesn't make me that much better than anyone else because who I bought them from kept them in cups, And so if you really wanted to make a change, you'd almost have to be like, well, I'm going to become the biggest Betta breeder in the world, and I'm going to make sure they never sit in anything less than 5 gallons. And then you're going to realize, like, oh, I had to be a multi-billionaire to make this change because I'm losing money with every Betta I sell. So that's the unfortunate part. So I would tell you, just go get a Betta and be a model Betta keeper that other people see. And so even if it's your grandma sees it in a 20-gallon tank, but then someone else, she's over at a luncheon, all of a sudden she's talking about, oh, yeah, my Beth has got a Betta. I don't know. It's a pretty big tank. All that. Through osmosis, that will, slowly grassroots move to something better. And I don't care what type of fish it is, pretty much more water, always better. You can make a case on this 800 gallons should be 8,000 gallons. And then from 8,000 gallons, it could be 8 million gallons. Like there's always more is better. And so, it's kind of like always making more money is better in theory. There's a certain point where more money isn't better. Like it doesn't really change your life. More water wouldn't really change your lives. But lead by example. That's the best thing is, I would go in there. I would choose your Betta. And I would make the best of the situation. Now, if you feel very strongly, go buy from a private breeder. Support them. Like you could support, I know sometimes that Creative Pet Keeping sells some. I know that Gianne sells some from time to time. I know that, maybe Simply Bettas will start doing that. Like you could choose to do that. But for most people, walking into their local store, buying a Betta and giving a correct home is the best thing they could do ethically and enjoy it, love it, give it a good home, and lead by example. So we got a $5 super chat from Kyle's Wild World. I love that idea. Lead by example, big tanks and plants for all the fish. Yeah, I mean, you do multiple things of you inspire someone else without them knowing it. This is how I got into the hobby. No joke. This is how I got into the hobby. My buddy Ben had a 72-gallon Bowfront aquarium. It was planted up with tetras. And over the course of like a year, I'd be sitting on his couch and I just kind of look at it and go, hey, that thing's kind of cool. And then eventually one day I asked him how much work it was. And he said, oh, it's not that much work because the plants are doing work for me. I do a water change every once in a while. I put some food in. I buy fish when it's cool. And then like 3 or 4 weeks later, I finally got my first aquarium and it was only because I was around his aquarium over and over and over again. So it was that osmosis process of seeing that is what made me want to do it. Now, growing up, I had a family member with an aquarium, and they had goldfish, and it was either like a 10 or a 20 gallon tank. It kind of sat in sunlight, so the water was green a lot. I remember it had an undergravel filter, and that was so the osmosis there was like, oh, geez, seems like it was a lot of work, because my aunt at the time would change water all the time, but the water would never not be green. The goldfish got big, and it seemed okay. I mean, those things, like, from being a kid, seemed like they lived like forever, right? Like, I don't know how long they lived, but it seemed like forever. And she was always doing a ton of work on it. And so by that example, I was like, oh, geez, man. That's why I asked my other buddy, like, oh, is that a lot of work? Assuming that if I saw a smaller tank that seemed like a lot of work, and a bigger tank would be even more work. And so is that leading by example? And, you know, my buddy never set up an aquarium to, oh, yeah, one day I'm going to meet a guy named Cory. And then 2 years later or 3 years later, he's going to be hanging out at my house. And then he's going to fall in love with aquariums. He did it because he liked it. And that's why. So that's what I would do, and that's what I enjoy doing, and that's what I can recommend. So, all right, we're over the 1 hour mark. I know I want to get some stuff done and filmed in the fish room today. I'm hoping to get water running to some of those new tanks. Do me a favor, hit that like button on the way out. The next show we're going to do is 10 o'clock on the Real Fish Talk channel. Do me a favor, if you haven't subscribed there, go subscribe there. This is the biggest promise I can make to you guys. I genuinely believe Real Fish Talk will be the best thing I've ever done in this hobby to this point. Once we launch the new studio, we get the new guests coming in, we start doing the new things that we're implementing. I'm putting a ridiculous amount of money behind this project. We're putting a ridiculous amount of time. And you might look at it and go, yeah, it doesn't seem that much different than the show right now. But I promise you, it will be very different. It's going to be beneficial. And we're, you know, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Hey, you know, you had to invest nothing. That's cool. You know, whatever. But I'll say this. All of my creative juice is going into this project. I know Jimmy's excited about it. He's working on it. We're getting his input. We're going to make a lot of things happen, because I think that's the next breakthrough, is getting some of these people that don't know social media, getting them onto a social media platform, and then us getting to talk to them, and us asking actual experts where they go, yeah, all I've studied for the last 27 years is the convict cichlid. What do you want to know? I know everything there is to know about a convict cichlid, ever. You know?
I can't wait for those guests.
We want to get those people on screen, let you guys ask the questions, and actually extract some of that information and get some of that useful tidbits out there. So we're putting everything towards that. That's what we're working towards. There's another contest going on. If we can get myself and Joel to 200 patrons, we're giving stuff away. So what does that mean? You go to Patreon and /Aquarium Co-op or Patreon /Joel_C. You pledge like $1 there, and we're going to do some giveaways and stuff like that to the people that are pledged. Now, I know I'm going to give some really cool stuff away. It's one of those things, again, you got to take my word for it. But I'll say this. In my opinion, when you guys ever been really disappointed with the stuff I've given away? Like, I feel like I give away quite a bit, and I ask very little of like, oh yeah, you had to pledge $1. But the goal is to get more people signed up on Patreon and supporting more people they enjoy. And then whether you continue to support us or not is irrelevant. Maybe you go, hey, I'm not going to support you guys. I want to support Simply Betta's and Michael's Fish Room and Steamfight Aquatics. Great. But now, since you had an account, you may support them instead of me, which is fine. But you're supporting someone, and we're really trying to move this industry or this hobby or whatever you want to call it forward. And it will take a few dollars here and there to do that for a lot of people. You know, maybe Flynn needs a new... Well, who was it? Danny's Aquariums, right? Danny's Aquariums. I know he's getting a new computer, and he's wondering which software, but he wants to do it on the cheap. Filmora Wondershare, it costs $40. And if you got 5 patrons, how many months is that going to take? In 8 months, they buy that for him. And then he gets new editing software, and then he can get more people, and he can do more things, and he can help more people. And Danny alone is always, well, I won't say always, but he's in the chats moderating for me and doing lots of cool stuff for us all the time. So he's a big part of the community, And that's the kind of stuff I want to move this movement very slowly to help support. So, and the best way I can do that is make it so we're going to give stuff away. So it's kind of like you're buying a raffle ticket, you know, like I lure you in with like, you're going to win stuff. What's wrong with that? And then hopefully I hook you with like, yeah, it felt good to give $1. I'm going to keep doing that, you know, $12 a year. And now this cool thing's happening. Why not? So, all right, last thing before we're out. Rendon151, my first live stream at the co-op all the way from Alabama. I've been watching your videos a lot. Keep up the good work, guys. Hey, thank you for tuning in.
Thanks,
Hopefully you're either on the newsletter or on the bat signal, which we'll be using that again on Tuesday. Send out a bat signal, going live. Make sure you come and hang out. And we'll see you in the next one. And I do appreciate it. What's next week? Next week, I can't remember. Next week we might have Jeanne on the show.
She is coming.
She's coming here because she got family for Christmas.
We should have waited for the Betta talk for that.
Yeah, that's what she said too. But you know, Captain Insano shows no mercy.
Captain Insano.
So you know, we'll talk about something. I'm sure she could talk about Killy. She can talk about Puffer. She could just talk about talking about stuff.
Yeah.
She's got reptiles. She's a teacher. She's got all these things going on. But we'll have her in the studio. Most likely, I don't want to promise it because it could be like a snowstorm, or turns out that her family planned a big old thing. That happened last time when she came. During Christmas, she was totally going to come to the show, and then she's like, oh, turns out my family planned like this giant outing I wasn't supposed to know about, so I got to go to that. That way it didn't work out, but this year it probably is going to work out. So we'll have her on the show, and we'll see you guys next week, and have a good holiday time. Buy all of our stuff, enter all of our contests, and keep an eye out because I will put that contest live either tonight or tomorrow where you can win $1,000 worth of gift cards and all that kind of stuff. Another way to give back and promote the co-op at the same time. Hey, you guys tell other people about us, and we'll give you stuff. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
Sounds pretty good to me.
All
Later,
right,
guys.
See ya.